Hello, this is week 3, and our question this week was, what is your take on why so many other colleges were afraid to join Penn and Notre Dame, and be specific in our answers. I think first that the book mentions, and we also talked about last week, was the possibility of the fear of losing attendance to games. I believe it was Penn in the book that said when they increased the number of schools in the Ivy League and the teams that they faced, they did notice that there was a decrease in ticket sales, but that wasn't necessarily due to broadcasting games. It was also due to the fact that there were more games. Cost could also be part of issues when you're dealing with larger conferences, and you also have a fear about being unable to compete within those conferences. A lot of people said before that when you're dealing against schools like Notre Dame and Penn, you're already fighting a battle against them because they are established. So also, in addition to having to have that uphill battle, you're going to have to spend money eventually to make your team better, to make the school more appealing, and hope that you're going to get some kind of money back for broadcasting your games. Plus, when you have to go against opponents that aren't Notre Dame or Penn, it could be very difficult to get airtime. There's also a general fear of technology. Notre Dame already broke through this barrier when they went into radio, and a lot of other places were very afraid to start using radio to their advantages. We're still seeing this today when people are afraid to use new technology. There was another issue with television where the TV cameras were very poor quality, and so were televisions. It was very difficult to watch games. This is something that the book brought up, and it could also lead to deterring people from watching games, which could also impact the amount of money that teams could get for selling their rights. This is also a concern that not everyone owned a television due to the cost. Even if the TV was $200 to $600, this wasn't $200 to $600 in current money. $200 to $600 back then was a lot of money. Even if the prices were down for adjustment for against inflation, it was still very difficult to purchase a TV. Another thing was that television channels had very limited broadcasting times, and it became difficult for them probably to be able to afford giving money to air sports games. That we saw this when Dumont Network is no longer around, and you could see that even though they were willing to pay the most money and they were trying to make a push at the time, eventually their actions caught up with them and they could no longer sustain themselves. One other issue I feel that might be a little important is that the book brings up Penn's concern about antitrust with the NCAA. At the time, the NCAA was just being formed, and they wanted to control a lot more, including the broadcasting rights and the broadcasting of games. What this really sounds like, it sounds like a lot like antitrust, which was Penn's concern. What the antitrust means basically that they'll have complete control over every aspect of the broadcasting of games as well as the money. In fact, teams might not actually see any of the money, could all go to the NCAA. And I think that a lot of times that these teams and schools were afraid to break away from the norm, were afraid to break away from the NCAA like Penn and Notre Dame did, because they were probably afraid of being shut out from the NCAA. So not only are you afraid of new technology, not being able to get money, the expenses alone to upgrade stadiums and to upgrade your team and your academic everything, you also have the fear that the NCAA is just going to shut it all down because you're not following their rules. So it took a lot of guts for them to go against the grain and put their fears aside, even though there were risks. And I think a lot of teams just weren't willing to do so. Have a great week.